what does this look like? Perhaps it looks like a hill. Well, that's exactly what it is. So what's the first thing we know about hills? What goes up usually comes back down. So if we start here, we'll go up and then we go down. Sort of like the same thing with feelings. But what are feelings? This boy is feeling what? Let's call it happy. This boy is feeling what? Let's go with mad. This boy is feeling sad. Happy, mad, and sad. This boy is feeling what? Let's go with scared. A little surprise coming. Did you feel anything? Well, believe it or not, your body always changes when you have a feeling. If your chest is a little tight right now, or you're a little worried about what I'll do next, then you know your body is a little bit scared just for a moment. And another favorite one. This little boy is feeling what? Worried. And since we have a little more room, let's do this one. Maybe this boy just passed gas in school. He's feeling what? Embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I don't know how to spell that word. Nor did I leave enough room for it. So, back to the feeling hill. 4 questions we want to ask when we have a feeling, or afterward even better, is first, what started it? Before, you may have noticed when your body reacted to my clap, it startled a little bit. That's your body letting you know you're having a feeling. So if we're going to ride this feeling hill, when's the best time to notice you're going to have a feeling? Would you rather notice right here or right here? Well, most people would agree that noticing it right here is better for us. Because if we cope with our feeling, or try to manage our feeling, or just tell ourselves we're having a feeling, the chances of having a feeling hill that looks more like this are increased. But like a lot of us, we wait till right here when we notice the feeling. So we may want to answer the question number 2. What does your body feel like That's a really important question to answer, like I said, because you'll notice a feeling when it starts earlier. So what happens when your body has a feeling? Well, let's take a look at a hand model of the brain for a moment. This is like you looking at your brain, where this is the front part, and the part right here is another part. The front part is your smart part, It's the part that puts feeling and thinking together. It puts together all your memories. It adds all the rules you have for behavior, all your feelings, everything your body senses, and it puts it all together. It's like the smart part of your brain. But when we get scared or mad especially, there's another part of our brain, where my fingertips just were, that comes online. Almost like on a dimmer switch, if we have a big feeling or something startles us or makes us angry, the front part of our brain almost turns down like on a dimmer switch. And then this part starts to be more active. This part is what we'll call the mall cop. It's the part of your brain that looks out for danger and gets your body and your mind ready for dealing with that danger. It is great in bear attacks because it stimulates our body with a chemical called adrenaline, which is that get up and go feeling, cortisol, and a few other ones that get us ready to deal with the problem. But certain changes happen when this part of our brain shuts down, which is why, just like knowing what your body is doing, you may want to know this third answer is, or question is, what are you thinking? See, it's all working out. If you can notice small changes in your thinking, the chances again of you catching your feeling reaction earlier increase. So what changes happen when you are angry or worried or scared? What happens to thinking? Well, thinking changes and becomes extreme, black or white, all or none. In fact, that's a really important idea to have in mind if you're trying to notice changes in your thinking, is be on the lookout for all or none words. Always, never, everyone, no one. Those types of words really come online when our mall cop takes over. Why? Because it gets us ready to do something extreme. If you are being attacked by a bear, you'd better believe you're about to die and either fight that bear, as crazy as that sounds, or smash through the window, or what have you. There is another option of freezing, which is kind of like passing out or dying, which is, or pretending you're dead, which is another option as you're faced with a severe threat. Obviously, most of the time there is no real bear. But that takes a minute to realize, especially as you go up the feeling hill and this part of your brain, the mall cop brain, takes over thinking. Later, when you're down here, you probably thought, what was I thinking? What was I doing? The reason is you probably went to extremes is because, again, the front part of your brain, the smart part, had turned off. So if we draw a little diagram inside here, our feeling hill of a sideways view of our brain, kind of taking this and turning it sideways, this front part of your brain is the smart part. Or called the frontal cortex. And this part where my fingertips were is what we call the mall cop, or the amygdala. It does all the fight or flight reaction or freeze reactions, gets our body ready, gets our thinking ready for making extreme decisions. And I guess the last question about we would want to know is, what are you doing? Or what's your behavior? And that's kind of the fourth question that we'll ask you to notice. So you're making these feeling maps that answer these four questions. Now, when someone's really upset and they're kind of in mall cop mode, a couple things. Their body is going to be activated. So you're going to feel your heart racing, your breathing might change, your body might tense up. All great things if you're being attacked, because it protects your body, actually, the tighter you hold it. If your jaw is locked and you get hit, chances are it won't break, or less likely to. Depends on the size of the actual bear. Again, there is usually no bear or prowler. So paying attention to that is a good idea. And as I mentioned, obviously, when you're thinking rational thoughts, you're thinking things like sometimes, once in a while, if-then statements, but the more upset you get or worried you get, the more all or none words you'll hear. The problem with all or none words is they feel really true as you're thinking them. You really believe that no one likes you, everyone hates you, or something very, very bad is about to happen. It just feels true. And then usually, hopefully when you're calm, you'll notice some of these things you thought or did seemed extreme. Again, these are characteristic reactions of our brain to stress and those chemicals we mentioned. But hopefully, with practice, catching changes in thoughts and feelings earlier will help you have feelings more like this. There is no still pond I can offer you. There is always going to be emotions and reactions. But the more you notice them and the more you accept them, the more likely is that you'll have a reaction like this, which does not cross this invisible line, again, between frontal mode, we might call it, and Mall Cop mode. So in this case, you're still having a feeling, but you're still aware of it, and you can still engage in kind of smart part thinking, where you have relative decision making and you just remember what you're to do and not to do, and you think in less extreme terms. So with this in mind, parents may wonder what they're supposed to do when it's happening to their children. So if you have a child that's in mall cop mode, saying things like, "You never listen," "Billy always gets the bigger bite of donut," or what have you. I'm not sure why you only have one donut and are sharing them, but in this case you are. And Billy is obviously upset about it. So in that mode, what are you to do? A lot of parents stay in frontal mode and they try to explain to their kids why their thinking isn't right, why it's going to be okay, any number of things, which are all well-intentioned. They're using their smart part of the brain trying to help their kids. Unfortunately, it's like teaching a drowning person to swim by yelling instructions over the surf. They're just not going to be able to process that information. Why? That dimmer switch has turned down the front part of their brain and they can only process things in all or none terms. So assuming little Billy's not hitting you in the head or being unsafe, I think it makes the most sense just to reflect what they're saying. One of the other drugs that the brain releases under stress is something called oxytocin, which, if my neurology is correct, is what some people scientifically refer to as the cuddle hormone. It's the hormone that our brain releases under stress and other conditions that makes us want to snuggle or connect. So at the same time our brain is getting us ready to run or fight or freeze and to protect itself, it is also giving us a tool perhaps to manage that stress, to come together as a group, which may serve some protective functions, but in our case may help us to process that stress through language and connection and safety and attachment. So as parents, if we just listen and reflect to what they're saying, as hard as that may be, that's probably the best you can do. Because again, you're fighting this little curve here, which is sort of like a drug curve. You get injected with adrenaline, cortisol there, there's pretty much nothing you can do except help them metabolize that drug. If you argue with them or disagree with their feeling or point out logical inconsistencies in what they're saying, all you're going to do is continue to activate them. So the idea is just to listen and understand so that they experience some safety, a sense of comfort and connection, and that kind of slows down, hopefully, the flow of adrenaline into their little bodies. Now, of course, that doesn't always happen in a nice smooth arc. It sometimes just goes like this. So that's really tough because they don't have any preparation time, nor do you, to manage that. I do believe it's more like this the more you're aware of what your body is doing and what changes are happening in your thinking. But again, as a parent, I think the best thing you can do is listen and understand and try to say what they're saying back to you with a period, not a question mark, and pause and let them say more. Now, if your heartbeat is racing and you're feeling anxious, which happens many, many, many times, you may only be able to get out a couple reflective statements before you need to take a break. If you're thinking in these terms, you're probably not in the best mode to help them either. So taking a break and taking your time is key. So we're not only asking the kids to learn about what their body feels like under stress, we're asking you to learn too. And the better job that you do this, obviously, the more luck you might have. But this is probably a good point to mention my favorite word, which is oops. That gives you permission to make mistakes and to do this very, very poorly, but to try it again. As you can see here, this example has got mistakes in it. This is the first time I've done this, but I read a good book recently by Seth Godin, which says what to do when it's your turn. So he's the inspiration. I'd like to thank him for this, getting me started, hopefully sharing something that's helpful. One more thing is that don't ever use this while your kid is upset. If you like this and make your own copy or email me or whatever, I would be glad to share it with you. Post it on their wall, put it on the refrigerator, let them look at it as that they would like to. But while they're under stress, trying to use this again is like shouting instructions to someone who's drowning. It won't likely work. The other thing I should mention is that if your kid doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to use this, I wouldn't push it too much. Maybe it could be a fun thing to do at night after either you've had a big feeling and done something stupid, or they have, or whatever. The point is not to fix what they did, but just to understand, to have a language. So this shouldn't be used in connection with punishment or chores or any kind of discussion about it. It should just be for understanding. And I think that really serves as a basis for communication between parents, which we want kids to have so that they can form a better connection with us over time. The one thing that they don't tell you about stress is it's also an opportunity to connect. Because if I say I've had the worst day of my life and nothing is ever fair, and you just get it and you just understand it, that will comfort me. That is probably the best thing that you could do, because I need someone right there to understand what it's like for me. And if someone can do that, the connection and the feeling of being understood just increases. And then if you have advice or suggestions, way more powerful to do it then as opposed to early in the process, or especially when under stress, which we always do. So say oops, be patient with yourself. I find myself with other points to say, such as the sound of you yelling should be the sound of you losing the right to lecture about whatever it is. If you're in mall cop mode and you feel super right about what you're saying, you're probably not. So be humble. Say oops, come back and say sorry to your kids with no but. Sorry I lost my temper. Sorry I didn't manage that very well. Period. No but. Next time you manage your temper, lecture away, although the shorter the lecture, the better. I hope this is helpful. Feel free to, comment or share, or feel free to visit my website. Thank you very much. This has been Chris Kepner. I feel like I should say that at this point. Take care.